Le Mazurier in the newsroom. There's reason to cheer out of Pakistan, the country's first ever transfer of power from one democratically elected government to another. This after a general election marked by the highest turnout in decades. The winner, well, a familiar face will have his third go in office.
Challenges are huge, and we've got to meet these challenges. And of course, this is a very uphill task, but we are determined.
Challenges are huge. When Nawaz Sharif was ousted in a 1999 coup, most of the time said he was inept. Today he's back with a clear mandate. Yet the task has become even more daunting, with the spillover effect of Afghanistan, rising poverty fueling extremism. Sharif stopped shy of directly denouncing the Taliban, who had been targeting the election campaign, which included the killing of candidates. But the head of the Muslim League Party has also extended a hand to both Washington and New Delhi. Can the new civilian government stare down extremists and the military, confound naysayers, and make a fresh start of it? Today in the France 24 debate, is it a new Sharif for Pakistan? With us to talk about it is Ambassador Khalid Iqbal, who's been in post here in Paris for 5 weeks, you were saying. 5 weeks. Welcome to France.
Thank you so much.
All right, welcome as well to Lila Jacinto of France 24. How are you? Joining us a little bit later on from the Pakistani capital will be Taha Siddiqui. And from Washington, we're pleased to welcome Ahmad Majidyar of the American Enterprise Institute. Welcome to the France 24 debate. The France 24 debate, where you can always weigh in on the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Now, before we talk about Nawaz Sharif, let's talk about the turnout. And Ambassador, were you surprised by this high turnout?
I think it's a very pleasant change in Pakistan, because earlier the turnout used to be in 30s, or at times it has been even less than 30. But this time close to 60% of the turnout. I think it's a very good omen for Pakistan and for the Pakistanis, because as we were talking prior to the program, probably the Pakistani nation is testing the strength of their vote. And we felt good, they felt good, because this shows that the country is maturing enough for democracy, and they are going to take the right decisions in future also.
All right. What was the secret of that higher turnout?
I think the secret, there is no secret in it. Probably people have, over the years, when the governments were coming in and out of power, this is for the first time in the history of Pakistan that a democratically elected government has completed its tenure, and it was dissolved in accordance with the notification by the federal government and by the parliament. Transferring it to another elected government, probably that gave a lot of strength and courage to the people, and they thought that if we can again vote ourselves and we can see whether we can bring about a change, that is what they did. And it only showed the resilience of the Pakistani nation that, okay, we are going to test the strength of our vote.
Ahmad Majidyar, do you agree?
I agree with the ambassador that the very historic turnout of the Pakistani people was a clear rejection of both terrorism and dictatorship. And people there, they braved the Taliban's threats and terrorism attacks there, and voted in historic numbers. But unfortunately, in the past, the politicians in Pakistan disappointed the voters. So we hope that this time it will not be the same. But lying ahead, there are just tremendous challenges for the civilian government in Pakistan. So it's just the start of the beginning. It's just the beginning, not just the end. We know that the country's economy is in shambles. The unemployment rate is very much high, and power outages have made life for Pakistanis difficult. And security is also only deteriorating, and terrorism is no longer limited just to the tribal regions, but has also spread to the main population centers, especially in the most populous province of Punjab, and also the commercial hub of Karachi. In the past 5 years, the Muslim League Nawaz Sharif, which has been ruling Punjab province, has done very little to tackle the extremism there. So it remains to be seen that now that they are in authority, what they will do against the issue of extremism there.
Yeah, so quite a laundry list there. The Financial Times writing, the problems facing Pakistan are so towering, it's tempting to mistrust anyone wanting to take them on, especially if that person has tried and failed ignominiously twice before. The FT in its lead editorial there saying the new government must raise the investment rate and the tax base, both around a pitiful 10% of the economy, to give Pakistan infrastructure and education cuts rather than power cuts and madrasas. Leela Jacinto, after the finding out that he was the winner, Nawaz Sharif sticking to message, which is saying, I'm going to talk about the economy.
That's right. And it was very much a domestic victory. I mean, and one of the things that I think contributed to a high voter turnout is traditionally the demographic section that don't vote in Pakistan, which is the urban middle classes who just get fed up of Pakistani politics. I think they really came out, and the youth vote. So you were talking about the domestic. Yes, absolutely, the economy. And in that respect, Pakistan has proved to be no different from the US or any other country where, as we say, it's all domestic politics. I'd say that for Pakistanis, one of the most difficult things, which, in the West and in the international circles, we tend to overlook because we are so focused on the militancy and the regional issue, is what they call in Pakistan load shedding, which is power cuts. For many Pakistanis, it's absolutely symptomatic of the way the economy has plunged in the past 5 years. So very much a domestic agenda, of course. In Washington, New Delhi and Kabul, all eyes are going to be on Nawaz Sharif's foreign policy.
We'll talk about that foreign policy in a moment. I believe we're joined now by Ayesha Siddiqa, who's the author of Military Inc. Inside Pakistan's Military Economy. Leela Jacinto bringing up the issue of power cuts and how that weighs high on the minds of voters. How much of a problem is it?
Oh, it's a serious problem. I mean, it's so funny that during election days, we didn't have power cuts. It was announced that we wouldn't have power cuts, and people were in a pleasant state of shock to see electricity there. It's become, it's a serious issue, especially from industry's point of view. There has been a lot of layoffs, and a lot of industries are shutting, especially in Punjab, more than Sindh, because of load shedding. So it is a serious issue. Right. But if I could come back, this earlier discussion you were having about why this voter turnout. I think it is precisely one of the reasons this has happened is because credit must go to Imran Khan, that he got the people excited, involved, and because of that, other parties followed suit. Barring the PPP, others, PMLN, PMLN had to counter PTI by bringing out its people, getting them excited. So that's why you had greater voter turnout. So the other is thinking the media. The media systematically for the past, I think, 2-3 months since the elections were announced, 2 months at least, they were constantly kind of making appeals to people to change, the country, the future of the country. They should come out and vote. All right. So
there's been more of a discussion as a result. The election, by the way, showing a record turnout for women. Our correspondent Taha Siddiqui went with Julien Fouché to the nearby city of Rawalpindi and filed this report.
In this middle-class neighborhood of Rawalpindi, many of the local women have flocked to polling booths since early morning. Despite threats issued by the Taliban, this is a positive sign for an election marked by violence.
When we arrived here around 7 a.m. an hour before the polling started, there was already a long queue. There is a lot of enthusiasm, which reflects a positive change.
This polling station is one of the 17,500 around Pakistan reserved for women. That's motivated Shamim Akhtar, a 51-year-old, having never voted before, now she's willing to take part.
The last time, since it was a combined polling booth, there were men everywhere and I was being harassed by them. I couldn't do much to stop it, so I left. I was really upset and disturbed. I had to protect my honour, so I left.
A majority of Pakistani men are known to restrict their women from public life in a country where over 52% of the population is female.
It's against our culture and Islam that men and women mix together. It's forbidden for them to stand in the same place. I brought my women only because this polling booth is segregated.
I'm waiting here outside, and I'm satisfied about the arrangement since there are no men inside.
There are more than 11 million women missing from Pakistan's voters' lists. But even many of those registered are forbidden from leaving their homes, especially in areas where the Taliban have a stronghold.
And we can go now to correspondent Taha Siddiqui, who joins us now from Islamabad. Taha, when you were filming that report, did you think that the election would go off the way it has?
Well, definitely. I mean, as we did mention, the turnout that we saw in these elections was unprecedented. According to some statistics, it's 60%, which is still low, but way above than the 44% that we saw during the last elections. So we did see a lot of people participating. Early morning when we went to the polling booths, a lot of people had already come. As you know, in Pakistan, usually people try to come into the polling booths, or work starts very late also. But despite that, we saw early morning voters coming in and participating in the election process. And this all happened despite the threats that there were. I mean, to the run-up of the elections, we had multiple suicide blasts, targeted assassinations, and even kidnappings. I mean, the Prime Minister's son got kidnapped right 2 days before the elections. And despite all of these threats, all of this turnout was a positive sign. Although, I mean, at the same time, there are some questions being raised with regards to how the polling went in Balochistan, where there are questions because the military has a stronghold in those areas. But otherwise, relatively in the rest of the Pakistan, we did see a lot of voter turnout.
And just very briefly, Taha, when you were there at that polling station that was segregated there, did you have a feeling that Pakistan was somehow changing?
Well, I mean, we do know that in Pakistan there is a lot of conservatism, right-wing mentality of people. But we did see overall, I mean, the candidacy for women this time, it doubled. The women voters, many of them got registered, but there were areas earlier on, we have run a report on France 24 with regards to the fact that there are areas in KP and FATA where women are still not allowed to go to vote. And then there are areas in Sindh or in Punjab where the vote bank lies with the feudal lord, sort of the landlord of the area. So there are those challenges in the rural areas or in the northwest of Pakistan, but overall we're seeing the urban citizens and the urban youth coming out, and that trend moving towards the rural side of Pakistan also.
All right, Taha Siddiqui, thanks for that update from Islamabad. Ayesha Siddiqa, your thoughts on female voter participation?
Well, again, you know, there has been a problem in the northern areas, and you know, voter turnout, female turnout has been low in Balochistan as well. Punjab is where it has been fairly high. And, you know, there are problems, there are issues, and these are issues which will change with time. And considering the kind of pressures they were, you know, the Taliban threats and all. So one shouldn't be too amazed. But I think in urban centers, women did come out.
All right, so an increase in women voting, more enthusiasm mentioned by several of the panelists, and sort of an empowerment, you were mentioning, Lila Jacinto, of the urban middle classes. One of the big variables was Imran Khan, supporters of the cricket legend, who, by the way, this Monday have been crying foul after the vote. They say there was vote rigging. Their candidate, though, who's recovering in hospital from a campaign rally fall, he's upset, but he says all the while that he's very optimistic that the foundation of, quote, what we call the new Pakistan has been laid.
Democracy took a big leap forward in Pakistan in election 2013. It was the highest turnout. It was the maximum participation of women in elections and youth and overseas Pakistanis. There were irregularities, and we are going to produce a white paper on how the the elections were rigged in different ways through the administration. Police was used, and how the staff of the election commission were used. And
all right, so Imran Khan denouncing some irregularities, but saying that there's been progress. His party, by the way, now the dominant force in the northwestern province that's been described as the epicenter of Taliban violence. When you see his sudden rise there, Ahmad Majidiyar, what kind of an influence will the rise of Imran Khan's party have on democracy in Pakistan?
Well, the government of Mr. Nawaz Sharif has won an almost near a majority, so it will not form any coalition government. So it will be relatively a stronger government than the People's Party was in the past 5 years. But still, as you mentioned, Imran Khan has won a majority of, is the largest winner in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in northwest of Pakistan. So it will form the government there, and it's the northwest Pakistan, which is now the center of violence and extremism and Taliban attacks. And Imran Khan, during the campaign and even before that, his slogans have been more pro-militant and anti-American. And I think that that was one reason that he did not focus more on the economy and did not present a very comprehensive plan to revive Pakistan's shattered economy, that people voted for Nawaz Sharif, that people see him as a successful businessman who has already been twice prime minister, so people voted for him. But no doubt that he will influence Pakistan's foreign policy, especially relations with the United States in the coming months or coming years.
Ambassador Iqbal, the rise of Imran Khan's party, is that good news for democracy in Pakistan?
I think the more competition we have, politics is just like open market, free market. The more competition you have, the better product you produce. So similarly, this is what we are getting in Pakistan, because prior to the election, we had a lot of violence. Prior to election, we had a lot of threats from the extremist elements. But the resilience of Pakistani nation showed that, okay, we are going to vote and we are going to exercise our right and choice of freedom. And that's what they did. So it's X, Y, Z. Anybody winning the elections, either in one province or two provinces or all across the country, is good for the country because the people have decided, the people have given their decision. I don't know how the politics would work, which party would form the government in which province. That is what we are going to see in the coming days. But as I said, more competition, the better it is for the voters also.
All right, and we'll pick up on that point when we come back. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.